Happy Friday! Welcome back to Drinking by My Shelf. My name is Emma, and this is my third video in a row with the word TBR in the title. I'm so sorry. All my content right now is TBR content. So today I'm going to do the intimidating TBR tag, which is a tag that's been going around BookTube for years now, like at least 4 years, because I found some videos that were 4 years old, and the original tag video is now private. Whenever I tried to click through to it, it just goes to a private video. It doesn't show you who the creator is. So I'm afraid I don't know who created it, but whoever they were, well done, because this looks like a fun one. So I've got, you can just see it peeking out, I've got my full TBR trolley sitting right next to me, so we're going to go through that for each of the questions. Question 1. What book have you been unable to finish? And honestly, I am like the DNF queen. I DNF more books than I finish, probably. So I love to DNF. So what book have I been unable to finish? Bloody loads of them. But I do have, on my Goodreads, I mark things as DNF if I just CBA to finish them. But I also have a label called rain check, and I mark things there if I can't finish them right now, but I do fully intend to go back to them. And every few months, like every year probably, I go into the rain check label, and anything that's still in there I give up and I move it to DNF. So at the moment I only have one book in my rain check shelf, and that is My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante. So that is a book that I have currently been unable to finish, partly because I left it on the Isle of Wight, so I actually just don't have it anymore, but also partly because it was really fucking boring. Everyone says how good this book is. It's like so beloved, that whole series, and so raved about, and people say it's like such an amazing portrayal of female friendship, but I just thought it was really boring and didn't remind me of any of the nice friendships that I have with my female friends who are not toxic and are nice to me. So that's a book I've been unable to finish so far. I do still want to, because I've heard the series gets a lot better after book 1, and talking to my friend who's read them all, she did kind of big it up and made it sound like something I would be interested in. So we'll see, maybe I'll get to it, but so far, unable to finish. Okay, next question. So the rest of the questions are in the format, what book have you yet to read because ... and then there's different reasons. So for example, we have, what book have you yet to read because you just haven't had the time? And that's like everything that's here. But having a look on this shelf, I'm going to pick here, which is literally the book I've had on here for the longest, I think. This is Bookworm by Lucy Mangan. So this was a book I was given for Christmas 2 Christmases ago by my sister. It's absolutely gorgeous. So this is a memoir of childhood reading. It's all about her experiences of the different books she read growing up and what each one brought to her life. It sounds so beautiful, but it also sounds like a book I really want to savour and read slowly. So those are the kind of books that I never pick up. And then when I do, I love them. I did it recently with Americana. I kept it for, I think, like 4 years on my TBR. And then I read it and just bloody loved it. But I did give myself like a week and a half to read it really, really slowly. For me, that's slow. I know I'm a very fast reader compared to a lot of people, but for me that was slowing down and savouring it. So I need to do the same thing with Bookworm, but so far I've just felt like I haven't had the time. What book have you yet to read because it's a sequel? I don't think I have any sequels on here that I haven't read the first book of. In fact, I don't think I have any sequels here at all. I'm not really big on sequels. I guess the only answer I could give is actually not on my TBR trolley. Up, can you hear me when I turn around? Up there on the shelf at the top, you might see, just peeking at the top there, the Jenny Han trilogy, the To All the Boys I've Loved Before. I've read the first 2, and I haven't read the third one yet. And the reason for that is basically I was going to, before all of this, before the pandemic hit and lockdown hit, I had a date booked in to film a 24-hour readathon with my friend Fran, and we were going to read those 3 books and also watch the 2 movies that are out so far, all in 24 hours, but then lockdown hit, and so we haven't done it. So I'm still saving that third book for that. So it doesn't exactly answer the question. It's not, I haven't not read it because it's a sequel, but I haven't read it because it's part of a series and I have bigger plans for that series. What book have you yet to read because it's brand new? What's the newest book on here? This book, Breasts and Eggs, I just got, and this is pretty new. It's newly translated, at least. It's been out for a few years in Japan, I believe, but it is newly translated and published in English. This looks great. It's a story that's told in 2 parts, I believe, and the first part is set on like let me check this, like one hot summer's day in Tokyo, and we meet these 3 women who are all struggling with their changing body image in very different ways. And then in the second half, we follow one of these women a few years later, like looking back on that experience and how her family have grown. All of the women are in the same family. how her family have kind of grown and changed with those experiences. So I've heard great things. What book have you yet to read because you read a book by the same author and didn't enjoy it? Oh, good question. I think this one is perfect. This is Kindred by Octavia E. Butler. To be honest, the only reason I haven't read this one is actually because I just bought it, not because of the author thing, but I also am hesitant to pick it up because I've read one Octavia E. Butler before, which is the book Parable of the Sower, and I didn't enjoy it at all. I found it really, really hard to get into and like really wanted to do it. But I was reading it with my book club, which is the only reason I persevered, didn't enjoy it at all. So that definitely does put me off. But the premise of this book seems like so much more up my alley. Okay, question, whatever we're on now. Excuse me, little tappy tap tap down there. What book have you yet to read because you're just not in the mood for it? I mean, basically everything here I just haven't yet been in the mood for. Here's a good one, I think. So this book, Family of Origin, this is one I was sent a while ago now. And if you've been following all of my Balancing the Books, it's the book that I most often threaten to give away. Like if ever I'm over my limit and I need to get rid of books, this is always the one that comes up for review to maybe go, and I always end up clinging to it. It just sounds so strange. It's about a brother and sister, or a half brother and sister, whose father recently died, and he was a scientist who was trying to prove his own new evolutionary theories. And it just sounds like bizarre, and I'm never in the mood to pick it up, which is why it keeps coming up for maybe being given away. But there's just something about it that really intrigues me, and that's why I've just kept it on my TBR, despite it being a book that I can't imagine ever deciding, let's sit down and read this today. What book have you yet to read because it's humongous? Ooh. I don't have any crazy big books, but bear with. This is the Persephone book of short stories, and it's pretty damn long. It's like 470 something pages, and it's a collection of short stories, which I'm always a little bit iffy about, but it's just beautiful. I'm collecting all of these Persephone books that I haven't yet read and really need to fucking get to that. But this one, being the massive book of short stories, is definitely the one that I can see myself putting off and putting off and putting off the longest. What book have you yet to read because it was a cover buy that turned out to have poor reviews? I have a few of those. For example, this one, it wasn't actually a cover buy, it was an author buy. I read, what was it called? My Lovely Wife by Samantha Downing, and so I put this one on my birthday wish list. My parents bought it for me, but ever since then, it's had bad reviews, and my mum, who bought it for me, actually read it herself and said it was terrible, so she advised me, despite giving it to me, she was like, don't even read it. So we'll see what happens with this one. Okay, and finally, what is the most intimidating book in your TBR pile? All of them? I mean, like I said before, my Persephone book, and I have, where is it? Up there, a whole collection of these Persephone books, which are also part of my TBR. Those are the ones that I think I'm the most intimidated by, because I always think they're going to be really hard to read, even though, as I said in my last video, every time I read a Persephone book, it's like very accessible and readable and not intimidating at all, but it still like gives me that fear. The People in the Trees also intimidates me. So this is a Hanya Yanagihara novel, who is the author of A Little Life. I loved A Little Life very, very much, but it was an intimidating book and it was a very emotional book. This book is apparently very different, but just the nature of it being that same author makes it intimidating, coupled with the fact that everyone says this book is extremely strange. So who knows how I'll get on with that. And this book, this is from the Wreck, this really intimidates me because it's genres that I don't usually read. So this is historical fiction sci-fi, two genres that I don't often pick up at all. It's set in 1859 and it's about a man who is pulled from the wreck of a boat, and he is the almost, it says, the only survivor because there was some like mysterious other being with him. Sounds scary. I don't think it's a scary book. I think it's just a strange book. Well, Simon Savage says, this book has it all: originality, wonderful writing, a brilliant twisting plot, and fantastic characters. I mean, that sounds great, but I think just the fact that I can't work out what type of book this is going to be makes me feel intimidated, that like, what if it's just too literary and clever for me? I also feel intimidated by Half of a Yellow Sun, which is ridiculous because I felt super intimidated by Americana for years and then read it and gave it 5 stars and it was one of my favourite books ever. So it's ridiculous that I'm now like right back to square one, feeling intimidated by another book by Chimamanda and Ngozi Adichie. I liked her writing. I'm sure this book will not be too intimidating for me, but The mind will do what the mind will do. Honestly, I could just keep pulling books off this trolley and answer this question because they all intimidate me. Maybe I should do a video that's just called I go through my TBR and tell you why I'm scared of every single book on there, because I'm a little bit scared of every single book on there. But I would love to see your guys' version of this tag. I think it's a fun one and it's always fun to get a little glimpse into people's TBR. So do leave me a comment below with your answers, or like do the video yourself and link it to me and I will go and watch. And happy Friday, everybody!